Hello and welcome to this part 3 of a series of screencasts on MATLAB command line plotting. In this screencast we're going to pick up a few topics we have not had a chance to pick up yet. Subplots and how to create those using the command line or through an M file. Another way to plot more than one plot on the same set of axes and make changes in style to each of them. And then finally how to add text annotation to a graph using the command line. So let's talk first about subplots. In MATLAB, what a subplot refers to is a grid of plots, not in separate windows, but not all in the same set of axes either, just a grid of plots where each plot appears separately. We've seen how to do that in the Plot Tools window, but we can also do this from the command line or from an M file. Let's go over here to an M file I have up and running. Right now I have x equal to the linspace from 0 to 2 times pi. And what I'm going to do is create a grid of plots that's got 3 rows and 2 columns, and each has a different trig function in it. So the way we're going to do this in MATLAB is a command called subplot. And subplot has 3 arguments passed to it. The number of rows that you want, which is going to be 3, the number of columns that you want, which is going to be 2, and this third argument is going to be the position in that grid where I want MATLAB to focus its attention. I'm going to start in grid number 1 here, so 3, 2, 1. This is going to create a 3 by 2 grid of plots and then put the focus on the top left graph in that grid. Let's just go ahead and run the M file as it is, and what you'll see here is the beginnings of a 3 by 2 grid. There's going to be a row here, a row here, and a row here, and 1 column here, and 1 column here. And what you see is an empty figure in that top slot. Now, while I have the attention on that slot, I can start plotting however I want. For example, let's just plot a straight sine x function in that particular position. So I'm just going to type plot x, comma, sine x. I don't have to define it as a separate y if I don't want to. And let's just leave it at that, just make a very plain plot. And if I run the M file again, you'll see it plots my sine graph in that position. Now I can also add some plot features to this. For example, maybe I want to make it a solid red line, which would mean I would need single quote, single dash R. And let's change the thickness, so I would need the line width change to, let's say, 3. And then make sure all the parentheses are matched and run again, and you can see what I've got. And it looks like I may want to change my axes back. Let's change the axis to go from 0 to 2 times pi on the x-axis and negative 1 to 1 on the y-axis. Okay, so there's my final plot. In other words, once I focus the attention on one of the places in this grid, one of these subplots, it's just like any other plotting system that I go through. I can specify the style and color changes, I can specify line width, I can set up axes. It's just as if this plot over here were a freestanding plot in its own separate window. Now let's suppose I'm done with that plot and I want to move on to the next one, which I would like to appear here to the right of this first one. And so what I'm going to do now is type subplot 3, 2, 2. And what that's going to do is keep that 3 by 2 grid but focus on the second position. And when I click the play button, there's a new window that opens up, and I can start plotting again. Let's plot. Let's put the graph of 2 times sine x over there. So let's plot x. It's the same x as before. X is the vector 0 to 2 pi with 100 entries in between. And I'm going to plot x times 2 times sine x. And here, let's make that a solid red line as well and give it the same line width. And now once I click the play button, it should show up. I probably need to have the same axis limits plotted below. Click it again. Except I made a mistake. This probably needs to go to negative 2 to 2, I would think, since I'm multiplying my sine x by 2. And we can keep putting plots up and down the rows of this subplot here. For example, I'll continue on, and let's make the next row start to flesh that out. So that would be subplot 3, 2, and this would be position 3, 2 just below in this left-hand column and just below the first plot. And let's just start copying and pasting some things here just to make things go fast. Let's put the graph of sine 2x, 2 times x in here, keep the same line width, and for my trig knowledge I know I don't have to go from negative 1 to 1. And so the beauty of using an M file in this is I can begin to copy and paste, and I don't have to worry too much about repeating myself. In this fourth position, 3, 2, 4, that's going to show up right here, and I would like that to be 2 times sine 2x, so I need to change my axis limits again. Let's just stop right here and plot what we have. And you can see it's creating these plots. This is the graph of sine 2x, what I put in the 3, 2, 3 position. This is the graph of sine 2x, which I put in the 3, 2, 4 position. And again, I can help myself and automate my process just by copying and pasting in this text file. So let's put 3, 2, 5. Let's make that sine of x plus pi over 2. Do a little shift. X plus pi over 2. That is going to keep me at -1 to 1 on my y-axis. And finally, in the 3, 2, 6 position, which would be down here, let's make this sine of x minus pi over 2. I'll just copy and paste right in here. And of course change that to a minus sign, that to a -1, that to a +1. And once I plot those two guys, I have what I need. Now if I wanted to go back and add some annotations to any of these things, like add a title in an M file, it's very easy. I just go back to wherever the code is and throw it in there. So I want to title the first graph appropriately. Let me just put it in as y equals sine x. When I run the M file again, the title will appear. And you can add any annotations you want. Again, once we are focused on one piece of the grid in the subplot, it's almost as if the other grids don't matter. We're just simply as if we were plotting that one plot in a separate window, just like we have seen in previous screencasts. So that's how to create a subplot in MATLAB. So we're going to end the screencast off with two quick plotting tricks we haven't seen yet. So we've already talked about how to get two graphs onto the same set of axes. You would plot one graph, then use the hold on command, and then plot the other one. But actually be done a little bit more simply than that. Let's let x equal linspace -2 to 2, so let's say. And let's suppose I want to graph the parabola I'll call y1 x squared. And the second thing I want to plot, I'll call it y2, is 2 times sine x. Alright, now rather than execute two plot commands, I can actually plot them both at once by calling the plot command and then putting x, y1, just as if I were about to plot only the parabola, but then comma, and then x, y2. Now when I hit enter, you'll see that both graphs are plotted at the same time on the same set of axes. So I would put the independent variable and the first dependent variable. Then I do need to put the independent variable again, list the x again, and then the second dependent variable. You can also pass some plot options in this way as well. Let's suppose I wanted to make the parabola a dashed red line and the sine wave no line at all, but just little circular markers instead. Well, I could do that by calling the plot command, and right where you would normally put the plot style options for y1, put them where you think they should go, where they would normally go. So single quote, 2 of these for a dash and R for red. And then to change the plot style of y2, I just go after y2 and put a single quote, and I wouldn't put any dashes or dots whatsoever if I don't want a line at all, and just O for circular markers. And when I plot that, you can see I get the dashed red parabola and the circular markers with no line for the sine wave. So that's another way, a little bit more simple than using the hold on command to plot two graphs on the same set of axes. And finally, let me show you how you can add a text annotation to an existing graph from the command line. It's very simple. The command to add a text annotation is just text, and then I need to specify the x and y coordinate where I want the text box to go. So let's say 0, 0.5, and then I need to pass it the string that I want to display. So for example, hello, it has to go in single quotes if it's a string, so hello. This is going to put the word hello at the point 0, 0.5, as you see over here at 0 and 0.5. So let's recap what we learned in the screencast. First of all, we learned about the subplot command, and subplot MNA will create an M by N grid of plots and put the focus on position A, at which point we can plot and tweak our functions as usual. Secondly, we've learned that we can plot more than one graph on the same set of axes simply by creating a list and running that list through the plot command and specify different style changes for each. I've also learned that the text command will put the text string at coordinates x, y. Thanks for watching.